Today's video, I'm telling y'all, the worst pick, the woaded pick that you can make in every round of your fantasy football draft. Yesterday's video, we did the best pick, my favorite pick of every single round. Gave you 2 or 3 players. Today, we're zoning in on one specific player per round, maybe 2 or 3 if we get a little spicy for you, all right? So y'all know that we're just going to jump right in because it's late August, this economy, we cannot afford not to come tucked. So let's get right into it. Round 1, let's make people mad off the rip. Everybody loves every first round pick, all right? So there's no one that I could have named that you guys would have been like, yay, good pick, woo. This ain't no fucking sitcom with fake background cheers, all right? It's Saquon Barkley. That should not be a guess to anybody. The ADP I'm using, by the way, is free and available to anyone. It's on 4for4.com. We'll link it down below. It is industry-wide consensus, all right? So it takes paid leagues that I commonly reference, Underdog, FFPC, Best Ball 10s, and it combines them and averages them out with ESPN, Yahoo, NFL, CBS, all right? So this is every league basically combined and takes the average of them. So I'm using that data. Another thing that you guys are just going to get mad at me for whatever fucking reason, all right? I'm over it. Saquon Barkley, I'm over him as well. With Saquon, here's my problem. He signs in Philadelphia, gets a big contract. On paper, it's the best team he's ever played with. It's the best offensive line he's ever played behind, but I question like what his ceiling actually is. One, I just don't think he's the same explosive player he was when he came in the league all those years ago. At this point, 7 or 8 years ago, it's a lot of wear and tear on the body. He's dealt with many severe injuries where the scar tissue starts to build up a little bit. He just doesn't have those explosive plays. Like, he doesn't make those like he did when he was a rookie and a sophomore, etc. Coming over to this Philly offense, they have their running back one on the goal line already in Jalen Hurts. The tush push is not going anywhere. So if Saquon scores 8-9 rushing touchdowns this year, I'm not going to be shocked. But I just see no path to him getting to that like elite RB fantasy ranking by scoring 12, 13, 14 touchdowns because Jalen Hurts is going to score so many. He's scored double-digit rushing touchdowns in 3 straight seasons. There is really no reason for them to change things up. I know Jason Kelce retired, but are we going to use that against Saquon Barkley too, or are we only going to use that to say that they're not going to use the tush? Everything out of camp is saying that they're going to use the tush push as much as they did previously. So that scares me. I'm also a little bit nervous about Jalen Hurts throwing the ball to running backs. Like, when you have weapons like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and you are a mobile quarterback, you are less likely to dump the ball off to running backs. That's usually not what they do. They take off and scramble instead of going to the short and throwing the ball to the flat. So while they'll probably have some scripted plays for Saquon in the passing game, I question his upside in that realm as well. So when we're talking about using our first round pick on a player, give me someone that I feel has just as nice of a floor but a higher ceiling than Saquon Barkley. Let's move into round 2. And you want to talk about a lack of ceiling. Unfortunately, it's Davante Adams, man. He was coming off of a massive year 2 years ago. And then in our draft guide, he was like the #1 fade coming into last year. And it wasn't like I thought he was going to have a bad year, but we kind of predicted this perfectly. I said he'll probably have 1,100, 1,200 yards, catch a bunch of passes, score 6, 7 touchdowns because that's what the offense provides. And there's been no change to the offense this year. They just named Gardner Minshew the starter, which is good. It's better than Aiden O'Connell being the starter, but it's not good objectively for anybody in fantasy. So the only change that was made this year, Davante Adams is still a pure route runner. He is still an elite route runner. There's no question about it. But this offense has very little upside. Antonio Pierce, the head coach, they're going to be very slow. They're going to be a slow-paced offense. They're going to be a run-heavy offense that tries to win the game via their defense, which they should because they have a pretty good fucking defense right now. But Davante Adams' ceiling is so low relative to like what it was in Green Bay. And when you look at really the only change they made on offense is, okay, let's add a perennial elite prospect that's a pass catcher in Brock Bowers. So the only thing they did was add more target competition to Davante Adams. So round 2, I like some of the more explosive, like younger upside players where you can draft a Davante Adams. So I'll be fading Davante Adams this year. As we move into round 3, Sam Laporta is easily my least favorite pick in round 3. And it's not because I dislike him as a player. He's got a great role. They're in a great offense. They should score a lot of points, like all that kind of stuff. I do think the way that this defense now in Detroit is set up, they will not need to be in shootout mode all the time. I think they'll be pretty run heavy, which might lead to less like red zone opportunities for the passing offense. But that's not really the point. The point here with Sam Laporta, the reason I would fade him is that because I like the tier of like Trey McBride. At this point, Travis Kelce's going right around where Laporta is, so it's no longer a gap there. But for a while, Travis Kelce was getting drafted behind Sam Laporta. But now they're at the same spot. But Trey McBride, you can get a round and a half later. Mark Andrews, you can get 2 rounds later. Dalton Kincaid, you can get 2 rounds later. So when I look at that top tier, I don't see a ton of separation between those 5 fantasy tight ends. And the fact that you have to pay a premium price for Sam Laporta is where I cross the line there. I would rather use my 3rd round pick on a high upside wide receiver or a running back like Devon Achane if he drops there, the Cooper Kupps, whatever, and then grab Trey McBride the next round or Mark Andrews in the 5th round. Like that is where I would much rather be spending my time. So let's move into round 4. And I'm going to list the players up in round 4 because I had a hard time selecting, and there wasn't necessarily any like players that jumped out to me necessarily that I disliked them as draft picks. But this starts to feel like where we're entering the dead zone for running backs. All right. The dead zone is like where you have older veteran backs that are starting to like deteriorate a little bit, and then they just fall off a cliff. So I will point out 2 guys at the bottom of the rankings here. It's Joe Mixon and it's Alvin Kamara. So Joe Mixon would be my least favorite pick if you're in a full PPR league. All right. CJ Stroud does not dump off to his running backs. And why would you when you have Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Schultz? The Houston Texans last year had the fewest percentage of targets go to the running back position in the entire NFL. So while Joe Mixon might score 10 touchdowns this year, he's not really going to catch passes out there in Houston. And I also just don't think he's that good of a runner. He's good for what they need him to be, but PPR league, Joe Mixon would be an easy fade for me. If you're in a standard or half PPR league, then I would swap things to Alvin Kamara here because Kamara, at this point in his career, is not a very good runner. He just catches 18 dump-offs from Derek Carr per game, and I just don't know how long they're going to try to run that offense. And the other thing is, like, Jamal Williams was not healthy at all last year, and now he is, and they're giving him a ton of run with the starters in preseason, and they're using Taysom Hill as a running back as well. On the goal line, I don't think Kamara is really going to score any touchdowns. I think Vegas underdog has him at 4.5 rushing touchdowns for the season, and I just don't think we're going to get a ton from the run game from him. So unless you're in a full PPR league, Kamara in the 4th round feels obnoxious. I would also say that once you get into the 5th round, like Kenneth Walker is going behind both those guys, and I would straight up take Kenneth Walker over both of them. So that's another reason. It's kind of similar to like Sam Laporta, where I just prefer the guys behind him, especially at where they're going, more than I prefer these guys. And Kenneth Walker, again, straight up, I would take him. I just filmed my top 40 running back rankings and tiers video, the final one of the summer, which will be going live tomorrow. So make sure you subscribe to the channel for that one. And I talked a bit about Kenneth Walker and ranking him over those guys. So in round 4, we are a little bit up in flux there. But if you want a list of every player I'm just like completely avoiding this year in fantasy football, that is available in our draft guide, which is up right now on bdge.co. Full price. It's got our all fade list. It's got our must draft target list. It's got all of our rankings for any type of league scoring settings you're in, PPR, half PPR, one quarterback, super flex, whatever. Full price on bdg.co. The easiest way to get it, the least expensive way by far, is by downloading the Underdog Fantasy app and using our code BDGE when you get on there, all right? Download Underdog Fantasy, deposit $10 or more with our code BDG. You're going to get the draft guide access emailed to you for free. You're going to get a free square of Lamar Jackson passing yards for week 1, and you're going to get a nice deposit bonus up to $1,000, right? So if I'm out here giving you a million different options here, let me just give you that list straight up in the draft guide. But let's get to round 5 and a player that's just so far off my fucking board for personal reasons. My least favorite pick in this round, without a fucking doubt, is Mr. Kyle Pitts. I don't really want to talk about it, to be honest with you. As a Falcons fan, some of you guys are new here, some of you guys might not know that, but I am an Atlanta Falcons fan, and I'm just not there with Kyle Pitts. I just don't think he's a generational prospect that everyone touts him to be. I'm just not there with Pitts. Give me George Kittle over Kyle Pitts every fucking day. I get it. The targets have been bad and Kirk Cousins is there. If you want to invest in the passing game on this offense, go to Drake London, all right? Don't go to Kyle Pitts. He's just going to disappoint you again. So are the 2 players in round 6 that are Ramondre Stevenson and Zamir White. And they're similar for me, where they're still in the dead zone. They're 2 running backs that the concerns are they're in bad offenses. They're probably not going to have a lot of touchdown opportunities, and they're not going to play a ton on 3rd down. Like Zamir White for sure is not catching passes this year. Ramondre is actually a good pass catcher that I think will get eaten into from Antonio Gibson, right? I had Evan Lazar, the Pats beat reporter, on the channel 2 weeks ago and I interviewed him about Antonio Gibson's role, which I'll link down below. And he said, yeah, like they really, really like Gibson. He's going to be used a lot on third downs. He's going to be used in the 2 and 4 minute drills in the passing situation. So Ramondre, he's just like Ramondre and Zamir are both really uninspiring picks on teams that are not going to have a lot of offensive success. They're not going to have a lot of scoring opportunities, and they're not going to be dudes that play all 3 downs. So when I look at those two, I'm like, why would I pay a 6th-round price when you could wait to the 7th or 8th round even for similar guys that have similar roles, right, that might have the same talent level on maybe even better teams, right? You talk about the Tony Pollards, the Najee Harrises, the Zach Moss and or Chase Brown. Like, I don't see a too dissimilar role from any of those guys to Ramondre or Zamir White, so I'm completely off those 2 running backs. And we'll move into round 7. We've talked about 8 dudes that I think are the worst picks in fantasy football. But you know what is just in general the worst when it comes to fantasy football? If you are a commissioner and it is time to collect your league dues, like there is nothing worse, right? It's asking people for Venmo. People are like, do you take Zelle? Do you take Cash App? Do you take WhatsApp? Can I fucking wire you? Can I send you cash in an envelope? It's like, enough. Enough is enough. That's what the people from LeagueSafe said when they created LeagueSafe, right? LeagueSafe is this beautiful website where you literally just create your league on there and everything's set up, and then you just send the link to your group chat. And that's how you collect your buy-in. Everyone pays through there. I think they could pay through credit card. They could pay through PayPal. However they want to do it on the platform collects that money for you and holds it safe. You could have customizable settings. You know, first place gets this, second place gets this, third place gets this. If it's a keeper league, you can have rollover money to the following year. It is the single best invention for commissioners in fantasy football. And the best part about this is, I know this is an ad read, but they're taking $50 off your buy-in if you're a first-time commissioner. So if you're hearing this for the first time, you're like, oh shit, I got to set up my league. I got to start collecting buy-ins. Go to leaguesafe.com with the link down below using code BDGE. And if it's a $50 buy-in league, guess what? You literally just did not pay for your buy-in this year. If it's $100, then you're paying half the price, all right? This is a beautiful thing for your commissioner. So if you are not the commissioner, send it to your commissioner. He will love you. Make his life easy, please. Just send this video to him. Hit him with the timestamp. Hit him with the link. Guess what? He'll start your league, and then he'll hit you back with the link, all right? I love you. Check out leaguesafe.com/BDGE. Link down below. Let's move on to round 7. My least favorite pick is DeAndre Swift. And I always get a lot of pushback on this, and that's fine, right? When you dislike, everybody loves everybody. Everybody loves every single player. They make the best case, the bull case, the bear case, the this case, the that case for every single player. I'm here to tell you why I don't like these players. DeAndre Swift, and I'll talk a little bit more in depth about this in tomorrow's running back ranking video. Again, so make sure you sub to the channel. DeAndre Swift was paid to be a good offensive weapon in Chicago. I question how much of the opportunity share he's really going to get, because Khalil Herbert's a very good runner. Roshan Johnson is someone they invested capital into last year. I don't think he's that good, but I think he'll have a role here in some capacity. If it's on third downs to be a pass blocker, if it's short yardage situation on the goal line, no idea how the goal line situation is going to shake out. I would say like DeAndre Swift might be like the 4th best goal line option they have behind Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, and Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is a really good runner of the football too. He scored a shitload of touchdowns as a runner in college. He's going to do that again in the NFL. We just saw him run one in the preseason game. He's also a slinger like CJ Stroud, where he throws the ball to his receivers, not his running backs, okay? That is a problem for DeAndre Swift because his skill set is to catch passes and to be an athlete. And I don't know how much is going to go on there in Chicago with this. He's also behind a bad offensive line where like someone with his vision will struggle behind a bad offensive line. He's been kind of fortunate playing behind Philly and Detroit's offensive line. So those have been kind of overshadowed a little bit, but I think Swift might get a little bit exposed this year. So I'm completely off of him. Once we move into round 8, now this is the round where like everybody starts drafting players because they're like, oh, I got him at a value. He's hurt right now, but I got him at a value. He dropped in my draft. I'm telling you, you don't win fantasy football by being like, if you ever say to yourself, oh, he's hurt, but I got him at a value, you made the wrong pick. That is words to fucking live by. Oh, he's hurt, but he dropped in my draft, so I got him at a value. I'm telling you what, you made the wrong fucking pick. So when we get into round 8, Jonathan Brooks, the Carolina Panthers running back, is the wrong pick for you, okay? Again, 20 years old. There is no reason for them to rush him back off this ACL tear. They believe in Chuba. This is not a good scoring offense. Even if Jonathan Brooks starts playing in week 5, week 6, week 7, it's going to take him a while to ramp up to get speed back, to get there mentally. For him to get a real workload, like 15 touches, it won't come until the second half of the year. And even then, again, this is not a good offense. It's going to present a lot of scoring opportunities for him. What you're going to end up having is a committee there where you can't decide between which guy to start in a low-scoring offense. And one of the NFL's lowest-scoring offense. So I am out on Jonathan Brooks completely. We'll move into round 9. I am out on DeAndre Hopkins, Nick Chubb, and Devin Singletary. Nick Chubb for many of the reasons, but completely exponentiated as Jonathan Brooks. Nick Chubb's injury was worse. Nick Chubb is quite literally almost 10 years older than Jonathan Brooks. It ain't happening for Nick Chubb this year. D-Hop was a guy that I was targeting early on, but he's dealing with a 4 to 6 week knee injury. Apparently, he's going to be ready for week 1, but when you start to put a timetable that long on an injury that happens in August, I get concerned, because if you're going into the year at less than 100% and you start to push yourself and you get onto the field against dudes that are playing at 100%, you are way more likely to re-injure whatever the fuck is that you injured originally. So you're talking about a 32-year-old coming into the year already injured. That has red flags like a fucking 5'4" Latina that's curvy at Alpha Sigma Beta's fucking opening frat party. And then we got Devin Singletary, the third player in round 9. I just don't think this Giants offense has any sort of upside. I think Tyrone Tracy's going to play a factor in this backfield. The offensive line stinks. Devin Singletary's whatever as a running back. He'll get a lot of work early on, and like this will sound bad for the first 4 weeks, and then the real world will take its place, and Devin Singletary will not be an RB1 in fantasy football. Okay, he'll be a boring, maybe high floor guy for at least like 8 weeks, maybe 10 weeks, but at the end of the year, you're not going to look back and be like, damn, I'm really glad I drafted Devin Singletary. Round 10 and the final round of this video. All I ask, if you enjoyed the video, is that you hit the button that looks like this down below and subscribe to the channel. You are new for our running back rankings video tomorrow. The wide receiver rankings video is the day after. I have Gus Edwards and I have Blake Corum. Blake Corum in round 10 is crazy because he is quite literally just a handcuff to Kyren Williams. I get it. If you draft Kyren Williams and you want to reach a round or two ahead to get Blake Corum, that's fine. But drafting Blake Corum just straight up naked here in round 10, you can get other legitimate starters. You can get your starting quarterback like Tua, Caleb Williams are here. You can get guys like Zeke or Jerome Ford, Brian Thomas Jr. You can get guys that you could plug into your lineup day one, and you're going to take Blake Corum. That's fucking insane to me, okay? Gus Edwards, I just want nothing to do with this Chargers offense, really. I want nothing to do. Like, I'm not about to take the most expensive player in the Chargers backfield, despite us having no fucking idea how this thing is going to shake up. We have an injured quarterback. Every running back has been injured in this backfield. Do yourself a favor. Like, Gus Edwards is old. He is not running behind Lamar Jackson for the first time in his career. He will not be efficient. He will not play on third downs. He will not have any breakaway or explosive plays for you. Do yourself a favor. Grab Kamani Vidal if he makes it through preseason cuts in round 15, 16, 17 of your draft. Come back next year and thank me. Or yell at me because I'm a fucking idiot. Sometimes I'm an idiot. Not all the time.